The WNBA playoffs are off and running, and so are we here on Betting Weekly Fast Break after a dark day, both in the W and for us. Yesterday, we are back on. I am Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Wes Reynolds as we have a pair of game twos tonight on an ESPN doubleheader. Wes rocking the undefeated IU logo as their former OC is 0-3 over at UCLA. It's much different contrast and styles over there. But how are you? We're talking football. We're also going to talk basketball as well with the Indiana Fever in action today.
I'm well, Doug. Big game for the Hoosiers this week. The Colts are off to a 2-0 start, and the Fever trying to stave off elimination tonight. So, solid time, I think, for Indiana sports at least.
And Ryan Huffman already chiming in. I can't wait. He's fired up for tonight's doubleheader, and we just want to encourage everyone to definitely get involved in the conversation. Let us know your thoughts. If you like some picks, you want some feedback on, this is your chance to engage with us. So watch along and engage with us, but also, let us know if you need some feedback or what you like and dislike. We always appreciate the constructive criticism as well. And don't forget, if you like what you see here on the shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. Wes, I mentioned it's a doubleheader on ESPN. Game one in your hometown of Indianapolis. The Fever hosting the Dream. Atlanta, after a slow start, absolutely pummeled the Fever, really just kind of outclassed them is a way I would put it, given obviously no Caitlin Clark here. Now, you mentioned it's an elimination game, so the format this year's changed. It's 1-1-1. So every lower seed is guaranteed a home game. That's what we have here. If not saying you are on the Fever, but if you were on the Fever, what case can you make? What are the reasons for backing Indiana here?
Yeah, I think, Doug, it's basically the shooting because if you really go inside the numbers, 80-68, the game was in hand in the fourth quarter. So it looks like a easy Dream win, like they crushed them. The stats were actually pretty darn even though Atlanta won the rebounds a little bit. The shooting percentages were basically equal from the 2-point shooting. The Dream just made 5 more threes. And the Dream really didn't shoot the three very well at all. They were 7-22, 32%. Indiana, though, was 2 of 15, 13%. The refs were kind of, a little bit whistle happy. That's why Stephanie White got a technical foul. Aaliyah Boston was in foul trouble, even though this is kind of a tough matchup for her against the all the size from the Dream. When you're talking about Hillman and you're talking about Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner, whose minutes have declined, but they could still bring in off the bench. A lot of size for that Dream team. I didn't think the Dream were necessarily that great in game one. They just, they're plus 15 in the 3 points production. And that was essentially the difference. And they won by 12. So you could tell that probably if you really go inside the numbers, that it was a relatively even game other than that.
Okay. So do you have a play on this game? Because I do not. I lean Dream, to be honest.
Yeah, I couldn't make a case really for either side. We haven't really seen much movement, if at any at all. There's a couple 3.5s in the market, but Bet Rivers and almost everywhere else is painted 4. And that's where it opened. It's tough to make a case for the Fever, knowing how reliant they are on Kelsey Mitchell. And she, deservedly made all WNBA first team. And I think has really had to carry them in a lot of games. Like if you look at the numbers from Sunday in that 80-68 defeat, Kelsey Mitchell, 9 of 18 from the floor, the rest of the team, 14 of 45. So that tells you that, and part of that was the Boston foul trouble, I understand, but they're just so shorthanded. So it is kind of hard to make a case for the Fever here. So I thought 4 was actually right in line with where I would put the number, but I am interested in the total here. And I'm interested in the over. And we've seen a little bit of a move on that at 158.5, I believe, or is it 159 at Bet Rivers? It's 59. And I think that that's fine. I think you're going to see shooting be better for both of these teams, particularly from beyond the arc. Like I mentioned, Dream 7 of 22, Fever 2 of 15. I think that's going to be better, certainly for Indiana, you would think, at home. And I also think with this being an elimination game, if it's competitive, which it very well could be, you're going to get some fouling down the stretch. And I think you're going to get a pretty tight whistle anyway, because if you've watched the W throughout the year, the Dream are are I think the most physical team in the league. And you get a lot of fouling in some of these games. They're very physical defensively. They force a quick tempo, so they get to the line a lot. Alicia Gray gets to the line a lot. Ryan Howard gets to the line a lot. Hillman gets to the line. So they have several players that can live at the foul line. And I think that you're going to see, this be somewhat competitive. I don't expect it's going to be a blowout, but let's say the Fever are within 2 or 3 possessions down the stretch. They're going to foul. This is the end of the season for them. Like, this is win or go home. And I think you're going to see higher scoring game. It was 2-2 in the regular season, 2 to the over, 2 to the under. Both of the over games, I think, ended up at like 181 in terms of totals. So we've seen a little bit of move to the over. I agree with the market here. So over 159 for me.
I went 3-1 over the weekend with my Friday plays. The only one I lost was the over in this game. That was game one, and it landed way under 149. So I was a little bummed out, but I thought the matchup did suggest an over was in the cards, and they have to hit shots for that to do it. That's the only reason I'm a gun shy here, because I do think, for all the reasons you outlined, that it does lend itself the over. You mentioned Kelsey Mitchell. I don't think they've named first teams yet. I think people are started trickling out who they voted for and stuff like that. But her points prop is 18.5. Do you think she has to like get the high shot volume like she had in game one? Or is this a more democratic performance
Yeah,
from the team?
yeah. Look, I think she's gonna distribute a little bit too, but I would lean toward the over. I think it's priced about right at 19 and a half, and that's where you saw her kind of at the end of the regular season as well. So you're seeing a lot of the spots juice it to the over. Could maybe see if you wanted to do a stat combo. I have not bet this yet, in full disclosure, and may not anyway. You could maybe see like the points, rebounds, and assists, and I'm just scrolling through numbers here, so bear with me. At 25 and a half, I think, is what I've seen. Yeah, because you got to think, okay, is she going to get some assists? If the 3-point shooting is better, that means her assist numbers are going to go up, because she's going to find some of these players like Lexi Hall, like perhaps when Boston steps out, like Odyssey Sims for open three, Shea Petty, another one, and they're just going to have to hit them. And if they do, her assist numbers, I think, are going to go up. And she'll get probably a couple weak side rebounds where the Dream are trying to get back defensively, so they don't contest all the offensive rebounds, even though they usually do a good job of that, especially when Brianna Jones is in the game. So I would lean a little bit over, but I think, like, from the points perspective at 19 and a half, juice the over. I think that's priced right.
Yeah, I do too. You know what? I am going to get involved in a prop. I'm going to bet Naz Hillman over. I think she's going to win Player of the Year. She is more comfortable the last month of the season looking for her shot. She's a weapon, and she can spot up and shoot. Now, typically, role players don't play well on the road, as we know, in the playoffs. But I just think that she's more situated and she's more of a factor in their offense. Now, she had 16 in game one. Okay. Um, 5 of 7 shooting, including 2 of 4 downtown. So if there's some regression there, yeah, but I think double digits is not a lot to ask. So at minus 108 for over 9.5 points, I think that's the way to go. I think this offense pushes pace. I think on the road, particularly, their totals went over, and she fits in well and can guard multiple positions, as opposed to like Griner, who's limited, and that's why she's been relegated to the bench. How do you feel about Hillman over 9.5?
Yeah, I think she is going to win Six Woman of the Year. And some awards, like the official awards, are not done yet. So when I say that first team, that was the AP voting when I
Right.
referred to Kelsey Mitchell making first team. I don't expect there's going to be a lot of deviation, but you never know. But Nas Hillman, I think, more than likely, maybe you can argue for Heidemann. I think those are kind of the main two, Heidemann being from the Minnesota Lynx, where you're going to get that. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. And because you look at who the Dream have, you get some mercurial scorers like Ryan Howard. Like, there are games where she'll go off for 30, and then there are times she'll go 5 of 20 from the field. So you have erratic scoring from star performers. So that's why it's not like the NBA, I think. And I
Right.
was talking with
Right.
I was talking with somebody the other day about like NBA player props. You very rarely see the stars. Even if they have off shooting games, they find ways to score. Like even if Shea Gilgeous-Alexander goes 9 for 20 or 8 for 28 or something like that, he's still going to find a way to get his average because he gets to the line. You see a lot of these star players, and I will talk about this when we talk about one of tomorrow's games of somebody I might be targeting. You will see some really bad performances from star players in some of these WNBA games from a shooting perspective. So that always can happen. And that's why, I don't worry as much about somebody that's like a third or fourth option like Naz Hillman going over because that seems to happen all the time in the WNBA.
I agree. I agree. And good to see the chat getting engaged with everyone and differing opinions, which I really appreciate because that's part of the discussion, the collaboration. Just the letter A says fever on the spread and money line for me. So he likes a little zigzag theory, a bounce back spot for Indy. However, Ryan Huffman says I think the Dream are just too much, even in Indy. I could see Indy starting out hot. I'll look for a discounted Dream line then. So, a nice sort of like in game approach, back of your mind. Let the Fever have the initial strong start, which I think does play into some of the handicap that I'd love to discuss with you, Wes, before we move to the next game. So I did say on the show, I said, I think the Fever are going to lead after one because the Dream have been getting fat and happy off bad teams. And excuse me, I'm going to cough. So the Dream closed on a 6-0 run to the regular season, but it was always against like Connecticut and
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. Just, and I think the Fever came in and brought it, and they did lead after one, but then the Dream just had too much. So I've always thought when teams start slow, and it's usually teams that like dig themselves like a 15-point deficit and then come back and win. I typically see that the near upset or the scare or whatever doesn't really induce a better start. I think they kind of approach the next game the same way and just think they're more casual. So
Right.
the fact that the Dream started slow and still won comfortably, I don't think they're going to have a sense of urgency to start game two. I do like the Fever early. I'm just a little apprehensive because I think the Dream are pretty good.
Yeah, I think the number is right. I think your angle and your handicap is absolutely correct, but you're not going to get a ton in the number. I think at Bet Rivers, if you like first half, it's plus 1.5 on the Fever with juice, and there may be some twos out there as well. Yeah, the number's just a little bit too tight for me, but
What do you
I
think about
think that
money
your
line first
analysis.
quarter plus
Let
116?
me look and see. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's plus one on the spread at Bet Rivers. I
Right.
believe. I believe the VIG as I'm looking plus like
115.
minus 117 or somewhere around there.
Okay.
So I guess that makes sense. Uh I think that's probably the right angle, but maybe not the right price.
Yeah, I just wonder, given the home team push, all that, like who's the better team for a quarter, right? Like the Fever, I mean, they do have two all-stars with Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston. Tosh Howard's been strong. Odyssey Sims, crafty, fast point guard, like she's good. Like I think it's that second unit that Atlanta has that really is the difference maker. And it's a difference maker against a lot of opponents. So I'm going to do a quarter unit, just small play Fever plus 116 on the money line. I think that's the right start. I think that's how I'm going to roll. Um,
I think this will be a good
because
a good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just think it's a value play. I just think it's a good angle. We bring it over from the NBA. We've done it in the NBA. I think it's the right angle.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have a pretty solid crowd tonight for the Fever. I don't know if it's going to be sold out because I know some interest may have waned without number 22 on the floor, but they've still been getting pretty good crowds there in Indiana, even without her. And one thing I will say for this team, they've maintained a togetherness. And sometimes, that's kind of, I think, overlooked because that's not like basketball where we're really getting into the numbers and all of that stuff. But I think that's an intangible. They, I think, have stayed together.
I would agree.
with all of this adversity, with they showed them all in the row on the sidelines there, Doug, and there were like 6 of them that were out. That included Dantas, who missed, by the way, on Sunday with a concussion. But 5 players out for the year, and they've somehow, stayed together and kept playing hard. And you do wonder if tonight is when they run into a wall, and that's what concerns me. And that's why I'm not jumping in necessarily on the 4, even though I don't want to lay the dream, because I think you're probably going to get a good effort from the Fever here because of all the adversity they went through. And you probably have it right in terms of they're going to come out and then maybe they get outclassed a little bit at the end. But I'm going to stick with the total. I'm going to stick with the over here in this one.
Right. So you like the over. I agree. Maybe I'm just a little PTSD from not winning game 1, but I do think the matchup favors an over in that regard. Let's go to game 2 in Seattle. So game 2 also of an ESPN doubleheader. The red hot, really the white hot Las Vegas Aces, 17 straight wins. They are -5 on the road in Seattle, over under 162. And quite the adjustment here, Wes, in the market, because they were -5.5 in game 1 at home. So the market's finally responding to these Aces after the 25-point win, up 20 at the break, dominated really wire to wire. But let's break it down. So the Vegas Aces have won 17 straight during this run. I believe 12-3-2 ATS. Okay. So they've only lost 3 ATS of their last 17. So what's stopping you from just betting the Aces now that are -5 or even the money line?
The fact that this looks like it got set up is what's stopping me, because this did open I think like 5.5 or 6. This got immediately moved to 7, because it's like, well, of course you're going to bet on a team that's won 17 in a row. And then all of a sudden this dropped like a stone. Like this drop from 7, because it's not going to take as much. And we've had this discussion before on this program. It's not going to take as much in the WNBA to really move numbers. This is not like the NFL where you have such liquidity and high volume in the market. So you can get, medium-sized buy orders that really move a number here. And to see 4.5, 5 at Bet Rivers on this game, that's telling me that somebody likes the Storm. And when I go look at the numbers, and you go look, if you're just looking at Sunday's game, 102-77 final score. You have an Aces team that has not only won 17 in a row, just scored a hundo in a playoff game, shot 14 of 29 from the 3, Seattle 7 of 18. So 21 points difference in 3-point makes. They also won the 2-point shooting at the rim, 52-45. They won rebounds. They won free throws. They won the turnover battle. They won every single category that you could win, because this could have been 30, because Aja and Jackie Young didn't really play in the fourth quarter. Like this could have been an even bigger lopsided.
It was 28. It was 28
and
with
yet,
about 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So it already
So
was there. I mean,
you're looking at that. Yeah, so there was garbage time there with all the reserves for both teams, and yet this is dropping. So it's like, okay, what is going on here? Is it someone knows something that I don't know, and I'm going with the someone's, and that may be what's going to happen here, because I just look at it, and I know that the Seattle Storm have been the ultimate erratic team in the WNBA. They actually have a losing record, by the way, at home. I think they might be the only playoff team that actually has that unfortunate distinction. All the other 7 do have above 500 records at home. And yet, this is down, as I think the highest in the market somewhere else is 5.5, but it's basically 4.5. And at Bet Rivers, you're getting 5. Something's up here. There's a little something going on here, because with the Seattle Storm, I think what we've talked about ad nauseum on this show, talent wise, they're a top 4 team in the league in terms of when you go player by player, just up and down the roster. They're probably as talented as the Aces, even though the Aces have the likely MVP in Aja Wilson. But in terms of player for player, they're probably just as talented. But they don't always play up to that. And we have seen that. We have seen that team take bad losses. We've also seen that team go win at Minnesota as double-digit underdogs and go bonkers from 3. And that's what they're going to have to do tonight. I think against the Aces. But man, this is very curious to see this drop as much as it did from maybe getting potentially set up to as high as -7 in the market.
I so are you on Seattle here plus
I am
5?
gonna I'm gonna be REO Speedwagon. We're riding the storm out here and probably into the sunset here at the end of the season. I'm gonna take 5 with Seattle.
So I understand the market and they're very numbers driven. And I work with some guys who are numbers driven with WNBA betting and we bounce ideas and I don't mock them, but they liked the Sparks plus 11 in the regular season finale last week. And I said, you guys are crazy. Like this team has been outclassed all the time. Whenever they face good teams, they just faced Atlanta without Alicia Gray and they got blown out by double digits. I know they were at home, but they had just got eliminated and the ace is like, well, the math says this would be like 5 normally, and it's 11. So the market moved to 10 and they lost by 35 points. So the aces have had the market move against them in recent weeks. And I just think it's laughable. Again, over the weekend, I was like, give me the aces just against the Storm team. The Storm team is, they've shown us all year who they are, Wes, and you just touched on it. They've been incredibly unreliable, inconsistent. They play down to their opponent. Sometimes they do play up to their opponent. To your point, they've actually split the 4 regular season meetings with the Lynx. So I'm not sure Minnesota really wants to face them either. But I will say, as Ezzy Magmador has been terrible offensively. She has really slowed her game in terms of fitting into the offense. Now, I think Sykes coming in has helped or contributed to that, but also helped the team net wise. I do like Skylar Diggins, but she's only really that awesome, like off if she has an open shot, if they're sagging or she, it's a ball movement. NECA's a little long in the tooth. She's good, but she's, it's kind of limited. Aces hit him in the mouth and aces bomb threes. So I can't lay the 5 because I do see your angle. It is a total bounce back spot. But remember, Seattle was bad at home this year. It was a weird year in that their home record was tough. Would you look to betting maybe the first quarter, first half, or you're just going to take the 5 and think the market, read the market in that regard?
Yeah, when I'm looking here, by the way, first half now down to 2.5. It was as high as 3.5 on the opener, and then looking at quarter, maybe derivatives are a way to go here. Quarter, you haven't really seen a lot of movement. It's basically 1.5, pretty much everywhere, with varying degrees of juice, anywhere from like 109 to about 115 or 120. I rode that Aces quarter with you last week when they were playing the Sparks. I know you laid the full game and I laid the quarter, and it just seemed like, okay, the Aces want that 2 seed. They're going to polish this team off that's eliminated, and they absolutely did that. So I'm not going to play that quarter angle necessarily here against the Storm. We were fighting for their lives,
It's
but
the desperate start, kind of like I
yeah,
did the Fever,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'm gonna ride with the 5, and I know that there's a high risk that I'm gonna look dumb with
Sure,
this thing,
sure.
because it's like, oh my god, this is the 17 in a row. Because we've talked about this too. You don't want to necessarily. You've only got to be right one time or wrong one time when you're riding a winning streak, and you've pointed that out. If you keep going against and keep being stubborn and keep being stubborn. And I haven't really done that with the Aces, and I'm glad I haven't, because it's hard to believe, Doug, this team was 500 at one point in the season, and they look DOA. And then Minnesota beats them by 50 at home. That was a game. Fee, by the way, got hurt at the end of the third quarter. And then ever since then, they haven't lost, and they've looked like a completely different operation from top down. So this is a
They
risk of,
changed their lineup. That's
yeah,
part of it. They
yeah,
did change the
With
lineup,
Lloyd
so
off the bench, yes.
give
But
Becky Hammond some credit on there.
yeah, I will, and some of the young players have kind of found their niche and found their role, like Nye and like Kirsten Bell, even though Kirsten Bell didn't play on Sunday. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Storm here at +5. I think you're gonna get perhaps a good shooting night. And it's going to have to be from multiple players, too. It's not just Skylar Diggins, like Erica Wheeler. Erica Wheeler, by the way, is the one that really put them in the playoffs and won them that Valkyries game coming in off the bench. I think
She's
she,
also the reason. She's also the reason they were that low in the standings too. She missed a lot of big shots down the stretch, and
sure.
she's a reason they went. They had to go get Brittany Sykes, so
Well,
she kind of sucks too.
I'm saying for that game in
Yeah,
particular, but I think probably here in this spot you mentioned Magmagor, you're going to see more out of Malonga. Malonga has clearly improved as she's gotten more minutes. Like there's something there with her. And I think she's going to be a really good player in this league for a long time. They are going to put her in because they're going to need the offense. I don't think that they could just, totally focus on defense because who's really going to shut down Aja Wilson in the paint? Nobody. She's just going to have
her length helps a little bit,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, she's going to have a bad shooting night, though, kind of a mediocre night, which she's had in a couple games lately. Now, they haven't really needed her because everybody else, Melissa Smith and some of the other role players and role starters, I should say, have stepped up. But Seattle, for me, I just think that you're going to get some positive shooting regression on their side. And boy, I feel like, if you're betting the Aces, I understand, but it feels like you're walking in a little bit of a hornet's nest here with knowing everything that we know and the fact, and I don't think these are just necessarily quant guys betting Seattle. I think there's some sharp guys that are probably on the Storm side. That doesn't mean they're going to win, but I'm going to go with them here, and I'm going to take the Storm to stop
yeah. I mean,
the 17-game winning streak.
I certainly understand the spot, right? And it's the logical play over time. That's usually been the right side, these home teams and all that. I just think the math and the projections on the Aces are way off. I think first half you throw out the season. I just think it's one of those things where they change their lineup, they're playing better. The Storm are kind of fragile.
So
So I just think this number.
you don't think they've adjusted after 17 games though?
Well, they finally did after the last game, right? Because it's the same spread almost of home and road. But um, I laughed when I saw 6.5 on Friday for this game one on Sunday, and they moved. It got to 5.5. I was like, this is the dumbest line I've ever seen. The Aces are going to destroy them because they're still in FU mode. Like the Aces are coming out like they're on a mission. And honestly, you know, if you punt the first half of the season like they did, the gas tank's pretty still full, right? They haven't been going, all out all season. And I think they come out like gangbusters, and I think they're shooting the heck out of the ball. I think we're going to see an over here because they're putting up 100 points on teams because they shoot so early in the shot clock. Like I had the mistake of having the second half under on Sunday, but the problem is the Aces just keep going for the jugular. They don't bleed clock. They keep going and they keep shooting open shots. So I think this goes over the total again. I just this Aces team is just pulling up and shooting a lot of threes, and teams don't know how to defend them.
We've seen some
It's just one of those. Yeah.
We've seen two-way on this total though. I think initial move to the over, and then
I don't care. See,
it's kind of been
I think I'm sharper
ping-pong.
than I think I'm sharper than all the sharp groups in the W. I just do because the sharpest syndicates in the world aren't in this pot. They're in the NFL and the college. And I just think the ones who move it are just stuck on math and they don't follow this stuff as closely as I do. They don't understand certain things. So they're the ones who took the Sparks plus 11 last week and they lost by 35. They're the ones who've been betting against the Valkyries all season. They literally bet against the Valkyries all season, and the Valkyries are one of the best teams against the spread. So I just don't think the math. I think the league changes a lot. I think with the extra games on the 44 game schedule, I think past data becomes less important. I think the coaching is vastly improved this year. The Sun got a good coach. The Sparks got a good coach. The Dream got a good coach. So the gaps aren't there on certain teams. The players' statistics are different now, especially going into this collective bargaining agreement and all these other moving parts. I mean, you know how I feel about Kelsey Plum. Like I think her stats were skewed with the Aces, and that's why the Sparks sucked this year and missed the playoffs. So I don't really care that there's two-way action on the total. I don't think these groups really know everything. They don't have the answer key. They're trying for the small edges. Now I respect the market, but it's a different market. This isn't NFL Sunday morning. It's a soft market with not as many top level syndicates in it. And then I also trust, my acumen as well. So I think the Aces are on a mission. And I think as good as their defense has been and how much it's improved, they really are kind of on a mission offensively. And teams, if they want to hang, and I think the Storm do want to hang, I think it's more about trying to play offense with their pace.
No,
Do
I
you
don't. I
like the
don't
over? I mean, how
necessarily
do you feel
disagree.
about the total? Yeah.
Uh, I think it's probably right. I think the move, at least the early one is probably you would because you're banking on the Storm to shoot better. Which if you're taking the Storm like I am tonight, you're thinking that they're going to make some shots from three, and that's what you're essentially banking on. So it would be over rather than under. But one more thing, like on markets, you are kind of seeing like prop markets aren't getting as many like there's not as much activity, I think, in like the player prop markets as there was in the regular season because of what you pointed out, because now there's football. So you're not getting like as many big bets, I think, in necessarily this WNBA prop market. And then big bets are relative, because limits are going to be certainly lower pretty much at every single store for WNBA props. So they're not giving you what they might give you for an NFL prop or an NBA or something like that. So there is a point to be made that the market is a little bit different and it is a little bit softer, and that's why it takes a little bit less money to move them necessarily. But the player prop numbers, because there's so much variance of what I mentioned earlier, where you got talk about star players like Aja usually is going to hit hers. She more often does than not. It is maybe once every 6 or 7 games she doesn't hit. But there's a lot of star players in this league that you won't see consistent form. You'll see like 20, 18, and then they'll have six the next game, like Sabali did. So, that's something maybe not paying too much attention in the market. Pay attention, but it's not the crutch that maybe it is in other sports.
Right. Right. I do have a banger of a prop, and I'm glad our audience, who's ever still listening and all that, waited. You mentioned Malonga and Ezzy and all that. I think Magmador's unplayable. I think Noelle Quinn's coaching for her job. I think she's going to play Magmador. Now, she had double-digit rebounds in the last game, but that was skewed. She played the entire fourth quarter because of the blowout. But I still think she's a better option than Magmador because she can add some offense. You mentioned the points. I think the rebounds are a banger. Over 5.5, minus 136. I think she's going to get some rebounds, got the jitters out of the way in her playoff debut. I think that's a play. I think she has to play a lot more. And I think full unit for me. So I'm gonna play that one full unit
I wouldn't
for
disagree with that
Malonga
because
over 5.5.
okay, okay. I wouldn't disagree with that because if you look, the really good rebounder, I mean, for the Aces is clearly Aja Wilson. I'm seeing 10.5 juiced way to the over on her rebounds. So Malanga, I think it probably will get her fair share. What were the points on her? I think it was 8.5. If it's 8.5. Probably not a lot of advantage there. Seems like an appropriate, because I was trying to think, yeah, she's going to get more minutes to your points, but yeah, I'm not
I
going
think
to
she
do any.
has to. I think
Yeah.
she has to. I think Magmador is like unplayable. I just do. I just she's no longer the force defensively, and she's just in like a zero offensively.
Hmm.
So, Malonga had 11 rebounds in 24 minutes. I think she should play 24 minutes again. I think she'll play it against more of the first team, but she's going to crash the boards. She's huge.
Hmm.
That's her bread and butter. She's whatever, 6 or 6'9" or whatever it is. So there's just a lot to like with her, and I think she's going to be active.
Yeah, and Seattle, how deep are they going to really want to go into the bench here? Probably not all that deep. Like this is going to be starters playing, with the exception of Magbagor. This is going to be starters playing 45 minutes. Or excuse me, 35 minutes in these games. Like I don't think you're going to see Diggins leave the floor necessarily very often. I don't think you're going to see NECA leave the floor very often. And this is probably going to be maybe a 7-player rotation, because Tiffany Mitchell will play, and Wheeler will play, and Malanga basically, and that's what it's going to be. This has got to be a big Gabby Williams game too, and she has been so mercurial this year and so inconsistent. You got to get production out of her tonight.
Now, let's touch on a couple games tomorrow because both of you and I are off the show tomorrow. It looks like Brianna Stewart's going to play. We don't have official word from the Liberty. She was at practice today. They've gone from a 2 to a 2.5 point favorite against the Mercury in a closeout game. The Lynx are 10 at the Valkyries, although it's not at Valhalla, it's in San Jose. I have a play on both games. How about you?
I am looking in game number one to maybe do a little bit more props. I did not really find a lot tonight, but this might be, and I mentioned this player earlier. This might be an attack mode on Sabali. Sabali was terrible in game number one. She was
Minus 18 plus minus.
yeah, 2 for 17 from the floor and 1 of 10 on 3-point shooting. And this should be, you would think, because a lot of people were liking her overs, and this should be a good matchup for her against a New York defense that I think has really struggled, really up and down. And a lot of that has been that they've had players out. But Sabali overs are something I'm going to be looking at tomorrow, especially on the points. I just think that's a buy low for somebody that shot so poorly from the game. And what you saw too at the end of the game on Sunday before it went into overtime, where Alyssa Thomas had the last shot. As good as she
Yeah.
is being,
Don't even get me started.
she's not a last shot player. I'm sorry, unless she can bully her way to the basket, which is her game.
She did a wide open layup after
Yeah,
missing 2 free
yeah.
throws. I was on the Mercury. I want my money back. I'm betting. I'm going to bet him again. But I'm
I
sorry, I cut you
probably
off.
will
What was
too.
your point?
No, I'm just gonna say, like, with Alyssa Thomas, it was kind of funny watching that end of the position because she obviously can get assists and handles the ball and kind of initiates the offense for a team that doesn't really have a true point guard. They were giving her so much space out there because it's like we know she's gonna drive. She's not gonna shoot. She's not going to pull up and shoot an outside shot. Her game is bully ball, and she does it very well. Even though she gets mad when people say that, but that's what it is. It's not an inside outside game necessarily with her from an offensive standpoint. So she's not the one that I do think, unless it's close, even though she missed it. She's not the one if you need somebody to make a jump shot, that she's not it. It's Sabali or it's Copper. I think for this team, Sabali.
They have some shooters. They have some spot up shooters
Sure,
around as
Sammy
well.
Whitcomb as well. You got to include her if she's in at that point. Sabali over 14.5 points is one I'm I'm going to have tomorrow. And then I think maybe we'll see how much Stewie plays. She's going to go, but I don't think she's 100%. And you saw on Sunday watching that game, like, she's in tears on the bench. So she thought it was really serious. So if she's going to play, she's not 100% in my opinion. So you do need somebody that I think is going to pick up a little bit of the scoring punch. And Sabrina, by the way, who's only been back from injury like 3 games, she was only 6-18 and 3 of 12 from 3-point shooting. So you need somebody to kind of pick up that slack from the three from Stewie and Sabrina and Jonquel Jones. And it's likely Natasha Cloud. So Natasha Cloud, by the way, former Phoenix Mercury, always motivated to play against your own team. We saw that with Bonner against the Fever, had 2 very big games at home against them. I think Tasha Cloud over 11.5 is a good way to go here as well.
She's leading the series in points right now.
I know, for somebody that's not considered a scorer.
Right. And she was, I think I saw some 100-to-1s for her to be the top scorer. So she's got a little bit of a buffer. She's got an 8-point lead. We'll see if that trend. So I'm on the Mercury plus 2.5. Mark it down, make it official.
Add that for me too. I'm sorry.
26. Yeah, they saw it 6 of 26. They're going to be guns blazing. I like them a lot first quarter. I just think they're going to jump out, and that's my play for that game. And I'm on the Lynx minus 10 at Bet Rivers. It's 10. I just think Valkyries can't hang, and the Lynx are on a mission. You've mentioned it. Albert mentioned it. They're not messing around. They got lost game 5. We're not going to see the normal complacency we'd see in the NBA because it's a best of 7 versus a best of 3, and then things like that. Like, I think this is going to be Lynx. We're on a mission. We can outclass them. Like game 1, Heidemann took over and dominated. So I don't think the Valkyries are going to be up 9 again. I think the crowd will be good, but it's not a Bell Hall. I think this is just one team just has too much, and the Valkyries just can't hang.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. This game, by the way, not at the Chase Center or Valhalla in San Francisco. It's 45 minutes away in downtown San Jose at the SAP Center because I believe they had the Laver Cup, a tennis event scheduled like even before they got the franchise there in the Bay Area. So they had to move it. I don't know if I'm going to lay it here, but I wouldn't be on the Valks, even though they've been very good as underdogs. And they're, maybe defensively, I could see the under here a little bit, even though game one was a way over the total. It was the fastest pace, by the way, of any of the 4 playoff games that we saw on Sunday, which I think surprises you on the surface. But Golden State can't run with this team. If they have any chance, they can't get into an up-tempo game. They've got to make this thing an absolute slog. I think so. I think if maybe another way to play this, now that I'm looking at it and I'm kind of talking myself through it here, is Valk's team total under, because I think that this
Okay.
has to be an under game for them to compete. So what is it? 70.5. There may be even a 71 out there. So it's going to be somewhere in that vicinity. That might be the way I would look at it here, but I'm with you in terms of the links. I don't think the Valks are going to be able to hang here, and I didn't think that they were, even if they, before they even made the playoffs. And I think the links just got that culture right now. Like I don't see that as getting cocky. I see them as having fun. They're dressing up like each other, and messing around and having a lot of fun. And we know that they're the most cohesive team in the league because it's the same lineup, same coach. And that's why I like them at the beginning of the season to go ahead and win this thing, even though the Aces are coming. I think that they're comfort. I don't think that they're going to mail it in and screw around here. I think that they're going to take care of business tomorrow night.
I agree. All right. So we got some bonus plays for you again. Sarah and Albert are in tomorrow. Wes, you're back on the Bet Rivers Network on Thursday for Hardball with me. I'll be back on Hardball tomorrow with Chris. So a lot of good stuff across the board. We want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. Great questions. Appreciate everyone engaging with us and in the chat. Always, appreciate that. That really makes the show fly by and have good input. And we certainly went a little long. Also want to remind you, there's a bunch of other shows as well. Betting Weekly Game Bet Match with Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert. That dropped today. Favorite bets ahead of the next ATP tournament. So go check that out. And we just told you when Wes and I are on the next shows. So best of luck to everyone out there. And for Wes Reynolds and everyone behind the scenes today, it was producing with Shane and Max. So we appreciate them and the entire Bet Rivers Network team who makes it all look so good. I'm Doug Kezirian. Best of luck with your wagers tonight, and we'll see you back here on the platform tomorrow.